Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Managing Multiple LinkedIn Accounts Remotely with Amazon Lightsail. This webinar is hosted by Giles Garnett, the Head of Professional Services, and live chat is monitored by Jen, Head of Customer Support Service. That's me. So thank you for joining us, and let's start our webinar.
Hello and good morning, good afternoon or good evening to everyone, wherever you may be in the world. And thank you for once again joining us in the latest of our series of free Dux-Soup webinars. For anyone who's new to Dux-Soup or these webinars, my name is Giles and I'm Head of Professional Services here at Dux-Soup. I've been doing the webinars for the last 2.5 years or so, and I also run the booster and technical calls, so I may well have spoken to some of you if you've had direct dealings with Dux-Soup. Today, we're going to be covering a very popular topic, one which I'm asked about during a lot of tech and support calls, and that is how to manage multiple Dux-Soup accounts and LinkedIn accounts through a VPS or virtual private server. And in this case, I'm going to demo through a very popular provider, namely Amazon Lightsail. So for clarity, I'm not going to go through the functionality of Dux-Soup today. I'm going to be talking about and demoing how to set up the environment so you can scale up your LinkedIn activities using Dux-Soup. As always, Jin, who you just heard from, is our Head of Customer Support and will be monitoring the live chat and answering as many of your questions as possible. As always, try to keep the questions on topic so they are useful for the entire audience. And if you have other questions, you can contact our support team via the live chat on our support pages or on info@dux-soup.com. And before anyone asks on the live chat, because they always do, the session is being recorded and will be made available in the via the usual channels after the call. So, as mentioned, you consider yourself probably a LinkedIn or Dux-Soup power user, and you need to be able to manage multiple Dux-Soup accounts in parallel. So what do you do? And as I said, I wouldn't go through any functionality of Dux-Soup, so we'll skip over this slide, which I always have. There are a number of alternative solutions to this conundrum. How do you manage multiple accounts in parallel? All of which are valid, but lots have they all have different costs and benefits depending on your situation. So you could run all of your different profiles on your local device, for example. Now, Chrome can be quite a resource-hungry application, and having multiple instances running can have an impact on the performance of your hardware. You can use alternative local hardware, as mentioned here. So, for example, an old laptop or computer, a Chromebook, or a Raspberry Pi, perhaps. And we're going to be looking at that in 2 weeks' time, looking at specifically how to set up a Raspberry Pi, and maybe also some Chromebook activities as well. Alternatively, you can go down the route of using a VPS or virtual private server, and that's what we're going to look at today. Just a quick reminder. If you're running multiple accounts, you need one Chrome profile per LinkedIn account so that you have a separate environment through which you can log on, and you have basically a separate identity for each LinkedIn account, and that way you can do it in parallel. And then you need one Dux-Soup license, that doesn't matter if it's Pro or Turbo, per Chrome profile. So think of one, if you like, Dux-Soup instance as a Chrome profile, a LinkedIn account, and a Dux-Soup license. That's basically what you need to think about. So who needs to run multiple accounts? Well, if you've got more than one LinkedIn account to manage, then this could be applicable for you. And that could be because you're managing LinkedIn accounts for others, maybe your team members. You could be doing it as for multiple businesses or clients. You could be an agency, recruiter, virtual assistant. All of these are valid instances. It could be that you're asking someone else to manage your account somewhere else in the world, and you find that the easiest way to share that is via a VPS environment. So all of these things are possibilities. One of the things you need to consider is how many LinkedIn accounts are you managing? Is it 2? Is it 5? Is it 20? Are you planning on upscaling? And how intensive are your automation requirements? What are those requirements? How long do you need Dux-Soup to be running per day? How many profile visits? How many connection requests? How much activity are you carrying out on the platform? So think about all of these things as you go through your decision-making process as to which platform to use. Now, If you go down the VPS route, you can be logged onto multiple LinkedIn accounts simultaneously. You can be running all of those automated actions with Dux-Soup on each account. You have scalability and availability. To be able to dimension a VPS, you can usually, with most providers, scale up or scale down depending on your requirements. And the great thing is you have 24/7 availability. Your laptop or your computer does not need to be on for that device to continue running in the background. So today's example, we're just going to take this as an example because we wrote a blog post about this in December. That's available on our website. If we talk about Amazon Lightsail, so VPS is an instance, it's secure and stable, it's available 24/7 and available from anywhere you can get an internet connection. It's a simple, relatively cost-effective, scalable solution. I say we're looking at Amazon Lightsail because it's such a common solution that people use, but there are many other VPS providers available. And my advice is always to try and go for someone who is able to host in the region to where your clients are based, just from a geographical point of view. Now you can of course use VPNs, etc., to make your instance appear anywhere in the world, but Amazon Lightsail gives the availability across many of the different regions of the world, and that's one of the reasons we're looking at that today. One of the things that I'll touch on a bit later in detail is the dimensioning. Now, running multiple LinkedIn accounts, as I said earlier, can be resource intensive. And this is a rough guide as to what we would recommend, the number of CPU cores and the amount of RAM that you would probably require to run this many simultaneous accounts. Now, I've spoken to many people, for example, who need to run 10 accounts, but they don't run all 10 in parallel. They will use the Dux-Soup planner to only have 5 active at any one time. So therefore they can make best use of the resources available. I'll come out of here a second and we'll just talk about how we set up an Amazon Lightsail account. What I've done here is, hopefully you can see my screen, is I've set up an Amazon Web Services account here. So it's very, very straightforward to do, and probably took from start to finish to be able to set up my Lightsail account when I was doing this last week in preparation for today's webinar. I think the whole process took no longer than about 20 minutes. Set up an Amazon Web Services account and then go in here and then literally look for the Lightsail environment. We'll go into the Lightsail environment, and here we go. I've created a very, very low-powered solution here, a Windows 2019 server environment, which is available 24/7. As you can see here, it's running, and I can just click on here to log on. I can create a new instance if I like a new server. So this is the place to go to. If you just Google AWS Amazon Lightsail, that will show you exactly how to do that, how to define it, and how to configure it as well. So I have already logged into my environment. So if I just grab that, so what you can see here, this is my Windows Server 2019 environment. And what happens is when you get this, you get absolutely nothing on here apart from the basic Windows 2019 software, which includes Internet Explorer, rather archaically. And that's fine, except in order to run Dux-Soup and to have that running correctly, ideally you need to download Google Chrome. And you can do that by going to the Google Chrome website to download it. But there's a couple of things that you need to do from a security settings point of view in order for the download to work, because of the security settings within the Windows 2019 server 2019 environment. So when you've got Internet Explorer open here, you need to go to your internet options, and this is all documented in our blog post as well. So you can always go there to check this out. It is all clear there. Now, I just as a point of reference, I set up my VPS here is virtually located in Frankfurt in Germany. So in order to get this to work, I go to my internet options and my security, and I have to add some trusted sites here to allow me to download the Google Chrome software. and I went to my trusted sites and I added a couple of sites here, and you can see what I've done here is I've added these three. So *google.de.com and .co.uk because I wanted to download the English language version of Chrome. I added all of those websites to my trusted sites under Internet Explorer, and then I was able to, once I'd done all of that, I was able to then download Chrome here, which allowed me to just download the Chrome downloader, etc., and install Google Chrome into my server, my VPS environment. And once I'd done that, let me just minimize that one, and we can see here, that would then give me this option here, and then I can log in with my Chrome account as usual. And you can see up here in the top right hand corner, that's my Chrome account, where I can then run all of my usual activities from. So if I now go to, here we go, there we go to my LinkedIn profile. So I've got here my LinkedIn profile. I've logged on to LinkedIn under this Chrome profile, and as you can see here, it's also synced my Dux-Soup account to this environment because I allowed all of my synchronizing, allowed everything to synchronize with my Chrome account. So therefore it's downloaded all of my extensions. And what I can do now is I can go into to Dux-Soup, or I can go into LinkedIn and run all of my usual activities from here accordingly. I have access to all of the usual Dux-Soup activities, my Dux Dash, etc., etc. So that's my one Chrome environment. If I now wanted to add a further Chrome environment, and I've already logged on to another Chrome account here, what we can see here, I've got another profile here. If I press that one there, this is my second Chrome account here, and you can see here I've already set this up so I could now sign into a separate LinkedIn account. I've also got here, you can see here I've got Dux-Soup extension enabled here. Now I've not signed in and set up an environment related to that, but that way I could also then run that one. If I wanted to add further Chrome accounts, it's a very, very straightforward process. All I need to do is click up here and then I just press the add button. Now, if I've got an account, I can just sign in, or I can then create a new account. I can click here and I could, yeah, I know what I need to do, I think, is go down here. Oh, maybe I need to, let's just do that a second. I would then need to create a new Chrome account accordingly, and then log into that. And remember, you can create a Chrome account using any email address as long as you have access to that email address. So you don't have to create a new Gmail account with every new Chrome account. As long as you've got access to the email, you can create a Chrome account and then log on, and then of course supply your Dux-Soup license accordingly to that particular Chrome account. So I've seen many users, for example, who've got a VPS running such as this, with perhaps 10 or 12 accounts running in this place, running in this sort of an environment in parallel. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use the planner, so the Dux-Soup planner, to dovetail the activities for each of the accounts. So if I click on my Dux-Soup icon here and I go to my options and I go to the planner settings here, I could have, for example, half of my accounts running for 4 hours and then sleeping for 4 hours, and vice versa. So that way you can really maximize the potential of your VPS. And remember that with the VPS, the location is important. So you know, if you're representing people who are based in a certain part of the world, think about how you're locating your VPS or setting it up. With Amazon Lightsail, if I just let's just minimize that in a second. Oh, no, I think I need to minimize it there. There we go. If I wanted to create a new instance here, you can see here I have various different options. You can change your AWS availability zone. You have all sorts of different regions available, and choose exactly where you want your environment to appear. And then also I recommend using the Windows Server 2019 version, One thing to do as well is make sure that your, and this is something I was looking at the other day, make sure that your Chrome is auto updating, so that it's updating to the latest version all the time. When I downloaded Chrome, when I was setting this up the other day, it needed to be updated straight away because it was already out of date. So in order for Dux-Soup to run optimally, make sure that you have the latest version of Chrome installed. What I will do is I'll just go back to that dimensioning slide a second, just to revisit that one. So if we go back here, so this is something that you need to consider. So think about the number of Dux-Soup accounts you are managing or that you wish to run simultaneously, and then you can configure your VPS environment accordingly. This is just a rough guide, and there is a degree of flexibility in here, but just be aware that if depending on the performance of the environment and the connectivity of the environment, it may be that things run a little slower than usual. But the great thing is you can access that environment from anywhere, and you can just dip in, make sure everything's running correctly, and then go crack on with your daily work. You don't have to have it open all the time. You can just close that down, log out, and it will just continue to run there in the background. A lot of people who I've spoken to, the power users who are using this sort of environments, very often are using Zapier or integrations to monitor what's going on, so they don't have to continually dip back in and maybe only have to log on maybe a couple of times a week just to make sure everything is running correctly. And those are the sorts of solutions that you can think about in this situation. I've demoed everything that I wanted to talk about today. So Gin, have we got any questions coming in?
Yes, I have one question. Would you be able to let us know how does Amazon Lightsail compare to other VPS, if you know of any others? For example, like Green Cloud. Is it more user-friendly and cost-effective? Why did you choose Amazon Lightsail?
Green Cloud, I've not heard of Green Cloud before. The only thing I can say from my personal point of view, we chose Lightsail because it's such a commonly used environment. I'm not familiar with Green Cloud at all. I can say that the other environments that I have used, let me just see if I can find the other environments that I've used before. Yeah, this is the other provider that I've used before. Personally, I've used TransIP, where you can also do exactly the same. You can set up your VPS environments here. TransIP is an alternative. As I say, I've not come across Green Cloud, and I can only talk hand on heart from the environments that I've used. I used Amazon Lightsail, and I went into it completely cold, and I didn't have any knowledge of Lightsail. And it was very, very straightforward. I'm just looking up Green Cloud now as we talk, because as I say, I'm not familiar with them. Green Cloud VPS. There we go. I assume we mean these people. There we go. Yeah, I mean, most of these providers are fairly similar. Yeah, just check out reviews is what I would say. Check out reviews, see which is most suitable for your environment. But as I say, there are a huge number of providers out there. See what you can find. The one thing I'd say about Lightsail at the moment, you can get 3 months free on there. On the, I think it's the $10, $12, and $20 a month solutions. You can get the first 3 months for free. When I signed up for it I said last week or whenever it was, just to do this demonstration. So yeah, it's down to your personal preference, and go on people's recommendations. The level of support available is important. Maybe you have specific language requirements from a support point of view, depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, there are a whole host of different providers out there. Most of whom are pretty reputable, otherwise they wouldn't be in business. But the ones I have personal experience of are Amazon Lightsail and TransIP, both perfectly adequate for the requirements that we had. Any further questions, Jin?
Yes, another question would be, is LinkedIn aware of accounts that are being managed by the same IP address? Is this something that they are trying to eliminate?
What you need to remember is that many ISPs share IP addresses. So it's very common for IP addresses to have multiple accounts coming from that IP address, depending on whether you're working within an organization, a large office building, depending on how your internet service provider allocates IP addresses. So it's not uncommon for people to for multiple LinkedIn accounts to be coming from a single IP address. You can use extensions and various other things to use VPNs, to apply VPN specifications or whatever into your VPS. And you can also set up multiple VPSs with different IP addresses as well. So it's not something that we're aware that LinkedIn are actively doing, because yeah, there are so many possibilities with regards IP addresses. There are only a limited number of IP addresses, of course, available in the world, and yeah, it's not unusual for and lots of LinkedIn accounts or users to be sharing IP addresses. Yeah, so we don't see it as a big issue, no.
Thank you. Another question, can you explain exactly what VPS is, and why is it better to have one with Dux-Soup than not have one?
Okay, so a VPS is a virtual private server, and it's basically a server-based, it looks like a desktop environment. You configure it depending on how you want it to how big you would like it. I mean, let's just go back to mine a second. There we are. So we can see here, this is my remote desktop connection here to my VPS. It's basically a virtual desktop environment on which you can manage lots of things simultaneously. Now, in this instance, we are providing you with an example as to how to run Dux-Soup on such an environment. And the difference between running it on a VPS and your local hardware is it doesn't use any local resources other than when you're accessing it like this and you've got it running there in the background. But all of the activity that's happening, all of the processing power, all the memory requirements are being used on the server rather than on your local computer. So if you've got maybe 4, 5, 6 or more Dux-Soup LinkedIn accounts to manage, rather than having all of those running locally on your computer and taking up your local computer resources and perhaps interrupting your workday when you're trying to get on with other things, if you can basically, it's basically like outsourcing those activities onto another machine, which is located in a server farm somewhere. That frees up your local resources for you to be able to crack on with your everyday activities and work activities. And then you can leave Dux-Soup running in that environment. Now, remember, you're usually using Dux-Soup to do things like auto visiting or auto messaging or running campaigns, those sorts of things. They can all just tick away in that VPS environment while you are able to carry on with your work. And if you happen to have to go out for a meeting, for example, you need to close down your laptop, the VPS will continue to operate following the rules that you've set up, of course, within Dux-Soup with regards to your throttling activities and your planner, the throttling settings and your planner, etc., etc. Dux-Soup will continue to run on that server environment even when you close your laptop down. So you can truly harness the power of the automation if you're using this sort of an environment. Now, of course, there is a cost associated with that, be that 8, 10, 12, 20, 30, $40 a month, euros a month, whatever it may be, depending on the scale of your operation, but it gives you that extra flexibility. We'll be looking at some other, perhaps slightly more cost-effective alternatives to this in 2 weeks' time when we talk about Raspberry Pis and Chromebooks and those sorts of things where you can do this locally, but you have to leave those devices on if you're running them locally. The great thing with the VPS is it's running in a server farm with 24/7 availability, and will just continue to tick away doing whatever tasks you have set it off to do in its own time using those resources.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify one thing, that even if you run Dux-Soup on a virtual machine, you still should not be using LinkedIn on other devices. So it will run 24/7, let's say, but then you should not be running it on your mobile app, or if you're managing accounts for someone else, you should agree on a time when you're running Dux-Soup, and then when they want to check their LinkedIn, so that it would not duplicate.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, Jen, and something to consider. When you're running things, be that on a VPS or on your own computer in your own environment for other people, having an agreement with those people as to when it's safe for them to access their LinkedIn account is really important. You don't want it to look to LinkedIn like there's more than one person accessing your account. And that's a really, really good point. So you can mitigate that by using the planner and having agreed times that that are safe, A, for you to carry out automation, and B, for them to log on, check their messages if they have that requirement. Very often people just hand over their LinkedIn account and say, that's it, manage it for me, and we'll review it in a month. But some people are more hands-on and want to be involved in those message exchanges. They use LinkedIn from a social point of view as well as from a business point of view. So be aware of that. There's a couple of people who I've spoken to recently who run agencies, and they have a very clear agreement with all of their clients. Okay, we can provide you with so many hours per day when you have access to your account and it's safe, and they use the planner to manage that accordingly.
Thank you. I think it's also important. You can use a virtual machine if and same IP if you are in different countries. So if you are managing an account and the person, let's say you are in the United States and another person is in the Netherlands, so it would be a good way to trick LinkedIn that that account is being used only in one country.
Yeah. So you can set your location settings accordingly, and even use a VPN extension within Chrome in the VPS environment to make it look like it's in whichever country you need it to be in.
Yes, but we haven't noticed anyone who's, let's say, in United States and different states, they're using their LinkedIn accounts. There were no issues with that.
No, I've not seen any issues with that at all. I know many users throughout the world, various countries where LinkedIn perhaps isn't accessible. They're having to use VPNs to access it, and actually maybe even hosting on a VPS might be an even better solution in those instances than running them locally. But yes, there are so many possibilities with regards location settings within VPS providers, and then also using VPN extensions to make it appear like you're geographically appropriately located.
Yes. So basically, we recommend using VPS if you are managing multiple LinkedIn accounts.
Indeed. Any further questions, Jen?
No, that's it. That's it from me. Thank you.
Okay. Upcoming webinar in 2 weeks' time, as I mentioned. I'm going to be looking at a very cost-effective way of doing this using a Raspberry Pi. We've set up some of these in the past and been able to run these. If you're interested, familiarize yourself with what a Raspberry Pi is. They're very, very cost effective, very low power, and very useful. You need a little bit of technical knowledge in order to set it up, but there are some great guides available online. So we'll be talking through how to do that and how you can set it up and then just have it running in your office or home environment. And yeah, we'll go through that, and we may touch on Chromebooks as well. But we're looking here at giving people alternatives rather than having that monthly outlay perhaps of a VPS, which may be beyond some people's budget, especially when you're looking at really scaling up. Whereas you have a one-off cost of buying a low power computing device such as a Pi. It's a one-off cost, and then you can leave it to run maybe 1 or 2 accounts per device. We'll be going through that in a bit more detail and understanding some of the terminology around that. Okay, any further questions come in, Gin, just while I was talking then? Just
no.
Cool.
No,
all right. That's everything for today. As usual, the technical and booster sessions are available via the website. If you go to support.dux-soup.com, you can find those there. You can book those through the website, or contact our support team and they'll provide you with the links. That's everything from me, and I'll leave it to Gin to close everything off. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you on the next webinar. Bye-bye.